Okay, so 3 objectives for today. I can convert percents to decimals and fractions, but then we need to be able to convert decimals to percents and fractions, and then convert fractions to decimals and percents. So we've seen a lot of decimal stuff from the last module, and we've seen some rate stuff going on in this one. We're going to see more rate ratio kind of stuff, things with this because of percents. Now that may not make sense, but percents is, I like to look at it as 2 words, percent. Per indicates that you're going to be using division. And just like we've seen with the ratios, you can use a colon like this, but I like to be, as you've seen, I like to use these fraction lines, which we have also seen on the assignments, okay? But cent would indicate that it's dividing by 100 specifically, okay? So this is why each denominator, when we deal with a percent, there should be at least one denominator that's a 100 when we look at proportions and percents as well, okay? So percent means per 100, or that each part that you're dealing with is a 100th size piece. So a percent tells you how many hundredths there are. So if you see and read something like 86%, it would read the same as 86 hundredths, which we write numerically this way, 0.86. This reads as 86 hundredths, just like this does. It's just now it has a different symbol at the end. Okay, so once you see this symbol, just know that you're dividing by 100. Divide by 100, okay? But what are we dividing by 100? It's this number right here. Because if you were to take this 86 right here, put that somewhere else, 86. Now it's 86%, so 86 divided by 100, this ends up being, as a decimal, 0.86, just like we see right there, okay? Now this is different. What I just did there is kind of the method that we use to change a percent to a decimal, which of course a calculator is happy to do for us. Like we saw on the other objectives, we need to change fractions to percents and decimals and then switching them all around as we go, okay? But just, it's crucial that you understand that percent means divide by 100 or per 100. So the large grid below is the unit, or 100%, meaning this is a 10 by 10 grid, okay? So if you were to do a 10 by 10 square here, you'd have 1 full unit. Now it says each small square is 1/100th, so 1% of the entire unit. Outline the area that represents 24%. Okay, well, 24% would mean that we would be dealing with 24 of the 100ths, right? So down here, this means that since this 10 by 10 square is 100, I need 24 of those smaller squares. Now, when you do this on the assignment, when I did it anyways, all I did is I started by clicking on this box right here, on this corner. And now, since I know I need 24 of these, I need 2 full rows, or I guess columns in this case, two full columns, and then I need 4. But from what I can tell, you need the 4 from the bottom here, okay? So that's these 4 right here. So I clicked first on this corner, then I clicked on this corner, and what you'll see is that it will create a line for you. Okay, now I need the 2 columns, right? So I would click on this next corner, which would create that line. And then I want 4 up, which is going to be right here, right? So I would click there, and then it would create this line for me. And then since I need those next 4 down, I would click on these next 2, and then it would connect these lines for me as well, okay? Then it's going to shade it in nice and pretty. Well, that's not so pretty, but it's doable, okay? And this is what you need. This is what you need in order to get full credit on the assignment when it asks for you to shade the area representing the percent. Okay, so this one, it's the same unit, square, grid. But the outline, it wants us to outline the area that represents 20 for every 100. Well, the 100 is the whole square. So, of course, we're just dealing 20 with the 20 out of the 100 squares, okay? So this one, since it's 20, it means that we just need two of the columns, okay? So I'm gonna use some technology. That makes that pretty quick. Now again, where you click here is important, so just click on each corner. I start here, but I don't know that it matters where you start, which corner you start with. But as you click on the corners, the assignment will create the lines for you. Boom, 20. 20 out of, again, if you want to count them all, there's 100, but there's 20. All right, now it is a decimal, right? But once again, this 0.27 would read as 27 hundredths. So 27 hundredths would be 27 over 100 as a fraction, or again, that even the fraction itself reads 27 hundredths. Yeah, we're gonna need 27 of these, so let's see if I can do this again. I'm gonna start here in this corner. I know I need two columns because each column is 10. So I'm gonna click here, here, and here. Then I need this to be 7 high, which is here. And then I'll have these other corners like this. So I've got these 7, and then 2 rows of 10. 27, boom. All right, that's not my worst effort, but I think it'll do. Okay, so again, 20 and then 7, boom, 27. 27 of the 100, 27 of the 100, 27 hundredths, boom. Okay, now we're gonna see these as well. It says plot 80% on the first number line. Now, this is a percent, so these percents, of course, we're just looking for 80. And since it's simply just an 80%, we don't need to worry about this being over 100, although there would be a 0 right there. So on this line, I just need to find 80. Boom, I found it. Then we just put a point. Oh, I missed it. There we go, that's better. 80 right there, okay? So that's, as on a number line, that would be 80%. Now the other number lines, what you'll notice is they're kind of stacked this way. In fact, this was just kind of a screenshot of what you'll see on the assignment for something like this. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that and you're gonna just pretty much follow that line down. Let's see if I can do this one here. You're just gonna kind of create your own line like this. And whichever values match up on that line is where you're gonna put the point that goes on the number line. So the fraction for 80% would be this fraction, which is showing as 4/5. And then the decimal itself would be 0.8, this one, okay? So wherever they line up here is where you're gonna put the dots. And it really is that simple. Now, is there a way to find 80% and change it to a fraction? Yes, there is. Is there a way to change a percent to a decimal? Yes, there is. But again, we're gonna save that kind of for other parts of the lesson, which again, you'll see these types on the assignment, but you'll see the others as well. All right, now this is kind of just some rules stuff, but hopefully by the time we finish the lesson, you won't necessarily need the rules. But the rules can help, especially if you're looking to do it really quick. So to change a percent to a decimal, just move the decimal 2 places to the left. If you're going to change a decimal to a percent, you're going to take wherever the decimal is and just move it 2 places to the right. Now, whatever you have as a number, you just put a percent sign at the end. But you have to move that decimal 2 places to the right first. Percent's the fraction, you write the percent over 100, move the decimal, scale the fraction if necessary, and then simplify. So when you change these into fractions, you need to make sure that you do simplify. Because if you do not, then you'll be missing out on some credit there. Fractions to percents. All you're going to do is convert the fraction to a decimal, and then you move the decimal 2 places to the right. Now, I'm going to use these rules, but then I'm going to show you a different method, and then you can decide which one you like best. Just be aware in the future, especially on an exam, right? You still need to show just a little bit of work on these, okay? So write this fraction as a decimal and a percent, okay? All right. So this is a fraction. Let's change it to a decimal first. Okay, so this would just simply be 3 divided by 4. Now again, are we expecting you to do long division here? There is no expectation for that. All we're expecting you to do is type that into the calculator, and then you get this decimal, 0.75. And I'll try to do a better 0. 0.75. Now, if I want to change this to a percent, which I do, all I've got to do is move that decimal 1, 2 times to the right, and then you see you'd have 75. If you need to put the decimal there, then do it. I don't know, as a math nerd, it's kind of bugging me, so I'm going to take it off. But it's 75% right there. That would give you both the decimal and the percent right there, okay? All right, now we're going to take this decimal, and you can write it as a fraction or a percent first. It doesn't matter, but we're going to do both. Now, we have changed decimals into fractions in the past. To do that, what you would do, change this into a fraction, you look at the decimal place value furthest to the right. Now that 4 right there is in the hundredths place value. Hundredths place value, which means that when we write this as a fraction, the decimal, or the denominator rather, will be hundreds or hundredths. And then how many are there? Well, that's 44. That's it. Now, 44 hundredths is also simplifiable. Now again, are we expecting you to simplify this by hand? No, we are not. Make sure that if you write a fraction that you just plug it into the calculator to make sure that it cannot be simplified, because this one can be. If you divide them both by 4, you're going to get 11/25, which would be fully reduced. And that is the fraction that we're actually looking for right there. Now 44 100ths, if there's enough space or credit on an exam, of course, you'd get some credit, but you want full credit, so make sure you simplify those when you can, okay? Now, not all of them will be simplifiable, but this one was, so just be careful. Just plug it in the calculator, just make sure. Now, if I were to change this into a percent, then what I would do is I would take the original value, 0.44 or 44 hundredths, and again, you just move the decimal 2 times to the right, which would make that 44%. And now we have both the fraction and the percent. All right, this is 15%. We'll change this into a fraction and a decimal. Let's start with the decimal, just because it's listed first. So if I want to change this into a decimal first, I take this 15%. Now again, it's not showing the decimal, but it is right here, right next to the 5. And then I would move this decimal 2 times to the left. So you saw when we change a decimal to a percent, the decimal moves 2 times to the right. Now we're going from a percent to a decimal. It's 2 times to the left. And then I would get 0.15. But again, I'm a math nerd, so I like to see that 0 right there. And we have the decimal. Now, if you wanted to, you could go back to what we saw before, and you could have said, well, that was 15%, right? So that's 15 hundredths. And you could have simply put that into the calculator, division, 15 divided by 100, which would then give you the decimal, 0.15 as well. So that is the decimal. Now the fraction. So the fraction, it is 15%, just like we see in purple right there. It's 15 per 100, 15 hundredths as a fraction. But again, this can be simplified as well. Divide them both by 5, and you'd have 3/20. Boom. Now, I kind of said that out loud. I use a scale factor to simplify that, but of course, just plugging that in the calculator will simplify it for you into 3/20. Now, we did these pretty much by hand. I mean, the calculator did the work for us. But as it turns out, the calculator, we know how to change or we should hopefully know how to change a fraction into a decimal. But is it possible that the calculator will change a fraction to a percent for us? Yes, it will. And that's why I love these calculators so much. Okay, now it is a second function, so you're going to have to push the second button first. Okay, now if you look at the open, sorry, that's the close parentheses button. It's one button above 9. You'll see just above it, either in blue or green, you'll see an arrow and percent. Okay. So we're saying this is the button progression that you would need in order to tell the calculator, please take whatever I have on the screen and change it into a percent. So before you could write the fraction 3/4, then you push second, close parentheses, and then you'd push enter. So I think I kind of misled you guys there. But then when you push enter, you'll see the percent. So I'm going to do this myself. So I'm going to use the N over D button, 3/4. So right now my calculator, what I have on my calculator is showing this. Now again, I push second, close parentheses, and you'll see on the screen it has the arrow, and then it says percent, right? So you're saying, calculator, I don't want to see this 3/4. What I'd like to see is the percent, and when you push enter on the calculator, it will then say 75%, okay? Now, this is the way you do it with a fraction. It will also work with a decimal as well. So like this one, right? If I wanted to change this in this 0.44 or 44 hundredths into a percent. Now, you know, if you know you just need to move that decimal 2 times to the right, that's good. But if you know, you just type this in and then you push second. And then you push the close parentheses button. Well, 0.44, second, close parentheses. And yeah, what does it say on the screen? Sure enough, showing me 44%, which is what the answer is. So this one, if you wanted to change a percent, I would just probably say it's probably going to turn it into a decimal first. But so you can type in 15%. Okay, so just you type in the 15, of course, and then you type in it's second. On mine, it's second, and then you do open parentheses. And that's because just above the open parentheses, you're going to see percent. And then on the screen, it would show 15%. If you just push enter after that, it will usually change that into a decimal, which it did. Mine is now showing 0.15. And we know to change that into a decimal, or a fraction rather, you just push the double arrow button above the enter button, and then it will change it into the fraction, which we already have as 3/20. So 188% is equivalent to what fraction in reduced terms? Write your answer as a proper or improper fraction. So no mixed numbers on this, okay? So 188%. So again, in my calculator, all I'm going to do, type in 188, and then I'm going to push the second button, and then I'll push that open parentheses button with the percent there. So 188, second, open parentheses, enter, and it's going to change this into a decimal for me, right? 1.88. But I don't want that decimal. So what am I going to push? Push that double arrow button above the enter button, and it gives me 47/25. Now you can use the calculator to switch back and forth there, but it's not going to matter. This is the simplified fraction. The calculator gave it to us, and that's good. For this one, in the calculator, when I put it in there, right, so we just 96.2, and then, yeah, we're just going to type this second open parentheses button. And again, on the screen, you should see 96.2%. So after that, we're just going to push enter, and it will change that into the decimal 0.962. Now again, let's say you didn't want to use a calculator, because you don't necessarily have to. And this would even count as work. Some students like to just show these 2 arrows going to the left. Okay, because that's how you change a percent into a decimal like that. Either way, you should get the same answer. And it's 962 thousandths or 0.962. Both are good. All right, this one's a little different because it's just a regular 9. Convert it to a percent. Now, you can use a calculator if you like. I guess I'll show it both ways, but try it out. So if I were looking at this, I'm going to start with 9. I'm going to do it twice. So I would look at this as 9. In fact, I'm going to put the decimal right there because that's where it is. You just couldn't see it in the beginning, okay? Now, if you take a number, or you could say a decimal, and change it into a percent, you'd be moving that decimal 2 times to the right in order to change it into a percent. Now, if you do that, you're going to need to fill in those gaps with zeros. And so 9, or 9.00, changes then into 900%. So that is 9 as itself as a percent now, okay? The other way, of course, just using the calculator. So you type in 9, then you push second, then close parentheses, which again, this, just above that, it's going to show the arrow percent. And then when you push enter, it would show 900%. So however you get it, doesn't really matter as long as we get it. All right, try this one. 6/10, change this to a percent. So for one like this, once again, we're gonna take the 0.6. Remember, you're gonna move that decimal once, twice. So this would end up being 60. Let's show the change there. Then into 60%. Again, you could use the calculator. I'm going to skip that part on this one just because you can. But again, even if you're looking to show work, this is plenty of work right here. Done. The other thing you can do, if you think about this, if you were to look at 6/10 like this, just remember, we're always looking at two decimal places at a time. So you could tack the 0 on there like this and then consider this 60 hundredths. And if you look at 60 hundredths as a fraction, of course, that's 60 hundredths or 60%. Same thing. So it depends on how you want to look at it. If this putting that 0 there helps you, so you don't, so that you have both decimal places, that's good. You can't just show that you've got the two arrows there. Or again, if you just took 0.6 and multiplied by 100, it's the same thing. That's it. We did all manner of conversions here: percents to decimals and fractions, decimals to percents and fractions to decimals and percents. We have done fractions and decimals before, and decimals and fractions, but now we're including percents in all of them. So there we go.